Okay, kindergartners, today we are going to learn about key details. So to start our lesson off, I'm going to tell you about a time that I went to the park. So one day, I decided to go to the park. And when I got there, the first thing that I did was go and play on the jungle gym. After I played on the jungle gym, I decided to go down the slides. And then after I played on the slides, I had a picnic with my family. So now that I've told you about my trip to the park, can you tell me anything that stood out to you in my story? Those moments that you just told me about from my park story are called the key details of a story. A key detail is a word or a phrase that helps us answer a question. It is very important to have key details in a story. Now that we've learned about a key detail, let's color a picture of a key. So now that we've learned a little bit about a key detail, we're going to read a book and point out some of the key details from this book. Do you know where we go to buy things? We usually go to a store, but before there were stores, people bought their items from someone called a peddler. The book that we're going to read today is called Caps for Sale, and it's about a peddler who sells hats. And along his way to go sell the hats, he runs across a few problems. Let's make sure to look for key details as we read the book Caps for Sale. Once there was a peddler who sold caps, but he was not like an ordinary peddler carrying his wares on his back. He carried them on top of his head. First he had on his own checked cap, then a bunch of gray caps, then a bunch of brown caps, then a bunch of blue caps, and on the very top a bunch of red caps. He walked up and down the streets, holding himself very straight so as not to upset his caps. As he went along, he called, "Caps, caps for sale, 50 cents a cap." One morning, he couldn't sell any caps. He walked up the street and he walked down the street calling, "Caps, caps for sale, 50 cents a cap." But nobody wanted any caps that morning. Nobody wanted even a red cap. He began to feel very hungry, but he had no money for lunch. "I think I'll go for a walk in the country," he said, and he walked out of town, slowly, so as not to upset his caps. He walked for a long time until he came to a great big tree. "That's a nice place for a rest," thought he. And he sat down very slowly under the tree and leaned back little by little against the tree trunk as to not disturb the caps on his head. Then he put up his hand to feel if they were straight. First his own checked cap, then the gray caps, then the brown caps, then the blue caps, then the red caps on the very top. They were all there, so he went to sleep. He slept for a long time. When he woke up, he was refreshed and rested. But before standing up, he felt with his hand to make sure his caps were in the right place, and he felt his own checked cap. He looked to the right of him, no caps. He looked to the left of him, no caps. He looked in back of him, no caps. He looked behind the tree, no caps. Then he looked up into the tree, and what do you think he saw? On every branch sat a monkey. On every monkey was a gray or a brown or a blue or a red cap. The peddler looked at the monkeys. The monkeys looked at the peddler. He didn't know what to do. Finally, he spoke to them. "You monkeys, you," he said, shaking a finger at them, "you give me back my caps." But the monkeys only shook their fingers back at him and said, "Tis, tis, tis." This made the peddler angry, so he shook both hands at them and said, "You monkeys, you give me back my caps." But the monkey only shook both their hands back at him and said, "Tis, tis, tis." Now he felt quite angry. He stamped his foot and he said, "You monkeys, you better give me back my caps." but the monkeys only stamped their feet back at him and said, "Tis, tis, tis." By this time, the peddler was really very, very angry. He stamped both his feet and shouted, "You monkeys, you give me back my caps." But the monkeys only stamped both their feet back at him and said, "Tis, tis, tis." At last he became so angry that he pulled off his own cap, threw it on the ground, and began to walk away. But then each monkey pulled off his cap. And all the gray caps, and all the brown caps, and all the blue caps, and all the red caps came flying down out of the tree. So the peddler picked up his caps and put them back on his head. First his own checked cap, then the gray caps, then the brown caps, then the blue caps, and then the red caps on the very top. And slowly, slowly, he walked back to town calling, "Caps, caps for sale, 50 cents a cap." Now that we've gone over together the key details from the book Caps for Sale, I'm going to pass out a hat coloring sheet to each of you, and I want you to draw one scene from the book that you think was a key detail from the book Caps for Sale.